Hey, Randy here. Thank you for clicking into the sermon for this week. I hope we can be a benefit or a blessing to you as you watch and listen. And our prayer is that Jesus would become more real to you than ever before. God bless you. Before we look at the text, let me just speak from my heart for a moment. The past 6 months of this congregation, things happening in it, around it, to it. The hope for buildings and crumble. The hope for having conversations with an architect who literally goes to me for weeks on end. Me spiritually and emotionally taking my head and feeling like I'm just hitting a wall over and over and over. And crying out to God at moments this past summer and saying, God, what are you doing? And are you aware? I'm almost a little embarrassed to tell you that I even prayed a prayer that said, are you aware? But when your mind and your heart are not in sync, God would rather me be honest about what's going on in my heart than hear a Sunday school answer and saying, I know you're aware. Even though in my heart I'm asking, are you? There was no momentum, or little. Good things happening periodically and sporadically. And I went up to the mountains for a week, or during a week, first week of October, and I asked God, one of the toughest questions I've ever asked God, do you want me to stay here? And I did something that was even harder. I actually listened for the answer. And God not only said stay, but he said these words. And I wish they were audible, but they didn't have to be because they were just as good as audible. He said, it's my church, not yours. These are my problems, not yours. And I said, message received. Message received. And I drove out of Pine, Arizona, down the mountain. No radio, just me and my thoughts, leaving about 1 million pounds of weight in Pine. And I came down on that first Thursday of October, saying to myself over and over and over and over what he told me. It's not my church, it's his. They're not my problems, they're his. Over and over and over and over. And God, 4 days later, unbeknownst to me, or my brother, or anyone else, I get a phone call that says, would you meet for a cup of coffee? I have a crazy idea. And today, we are staring at our last and final Christmas Eve service in a rented facility. Yeah. We are staring at 7-day-a-week ministry. Amen. That's what we do. And we're going to offer things to this community that we have, pastors before me, elders before me, have been praying for and wanting for years. And now that the LOI is about ready to be signed, probably tomorrow morning, and this part, Kirby will take off of the internet for now, just in case things don't go well. Not permanently, temporarily. Don't read into that. The building is Anthem Way in Venture, 10,000 square feet on the bottom floor. And as you think about it, when I thought of that building, and when Fred is the chairman, and I went and told Bob and Janet that was our building, he sobbed. And come to find out, Bob and Janet and others for years have been going to that building, getting out of their car, and laying their hands on that building and praying for God to give us that building.
Miracle, yeah.
Had a couple nights, are they here, Bob? Are you? If my memory serves me, my friend, there were a couple nights where you guys, your lives got busy, you didn't get to, and you got out of bed in your PJs, got in your truck. One night when it was raining, you drove there at 11 at night, pulled the truck right up to the door, and prayed for that building because your commitment was to pray for that on a regular basis. Am I right or wrong? Today's sermon is about the difference between worshiping sweet baby Jesus in a manger and worshiping a full-grown, wise, strong, all-knowing Jesus who can and will do anything. That's what this message is about. And the more you will walk with Jesus, and the more that you give your life to Him, the more you will watch Him do miracles that you did not even see as possible. If I had my journal, I could open it up and I could read to you what I wrote on that first week of October, where I said these words to God and put them on paper. I have never been in a place in my life where I needed God completely, and without Him, I am, I should say this in public. I am completely at loss. I'll just say that. And I put my journal down and I just stared at it. And I thought, I've never been there, but I am today. And I don't know if God needed me, your pastor, to be there, or if He was just waiting, or some of you have been like, why didn't you get there earlier because we could be in a building? I don't know how all of that plays out in an eternal world. All I know is that God had it all lined up. And this was supposed to be at the end of the message, but let me just kind of give you the end first. So a little warning here, just kind of the end at the beginning. Some of you are dealing with marriage issues that are bigger than you've ever thought were possible. Financial issues that you see are impossible. You are seeing things happen in your family, in your life, in your health, in your world that are so large. The scale is so big that you literally sit at the bottom of a mountain looking and thinking, there is no way that I'm going to conquer that. And the message that Jesus says to us is, it's not your life, it's mine. They're not your problems, they're mine. I cannot offer more hope than that. Nothing thrills me more than offering that level of hope to the hopeless. Nothing. We can write checks to some degree. We can introduce people to these people that can help. I can reach out and, I'm well networked, and so I know people. I love knowing people, and so I love being able to connect this person with that person and then letting them. I love all of that. That thrills me. But I know a guy. I have a friend that always said that. He goes, "You always know a guy." I go, "Yeah, you're right. I always have a guy. You name it, I got a guy." I have a guy who, no matter what you have done, and no matter what you have said, no matter what you have believed, or no matter what you didn't do and you should have, says, "I have control over it all. Come to me. Give me your burden. Because your burden is nothing on me. And I want you to walk away with none."
Amen.
And if you've never been there, just know that it stinks. But there's something so liberating about dumping it and taking it off our shoulders and laying it at his altar and walking away and turning your back on it. Longest intro ever. But certainly related to the topic. God, we have less than 20 minutes, and I want us to leave this room completely 100% having the ability to trust you with the things happening in our lives. And that can't happen in 20 minutes, realistically, unless your Holy Spirit is our teacher. In Jesus' name, amen. Dumbest movie ever? Talladega Nights. Dumbest movie ever? Without question. If you try to convince me that Napoleon Dynamite is the dumbest, I will argue you all day long. Napoleon Dynamite was a classic. It's like Gone with the Wind, and you know it. So Ricky Bobby is having this prayer over his meal, and his wife at the end of the meal, he says something about praying to sweet baby Jesus. And she says to him, "You do know, right, that Jesus grew up to be a man?" And his response was, "I'd rather believe in sweet baby Jesus." Now, as crazy as that is, in the dumbest movie that ever was made, next to Cats. Oh, did I just say that out loud? Sometimes I think that even as believers, we want to remember the Luke 2 passage of Jesus, who is completely benign, anemic to our lives, seemingly. Not understanding that Satan knew exactly what was happening, and the battle was starting that night. But in our minds, super easy, particularly this time of year, to view Jesus as a helpless baby, not helpless one day. God was in control. And as I think about that story, the temptation to view and evaluate who who Jesus was and is by the nativity scene, there's a danger, but there's also a temptation. And so what I did is I wanted to think, my friend Jeremy was here today, he helped me, and we sat in my office this past week, and we just thought about the different places in the text. I think we came up with way more than these, but these are the ones that really struck us, and struck me in particular as I was thinking about how is it, in what way, that's a better way to put it, in what fashion do we view Jesus as a baby versus where it says in Luke 2, at the end of the chapter, talks about that he grew in wisdom and he grew in stature. He became a man. In fact, that passage was it was about when he was 12, when they lost Jesus in Jerusalem for 3 days. Remember that whole thing? And so he was ahead of schedule in every way. You can only fathom how that was the truth. I mean, in class, he was probably the guy that everyone hated. Straight A's. Everyone liked. Picked in kickball first before anybody. Best at everything. And then on top of that, he was probably the nicest human that ever lived. That Jesus grew up. And he said some things that it's easy to forget. Concepts that he brought into living that shouldn't have come from baby Jesus. He was God. The first one is that, if you're taking notes, write it down in your notes. It says, our comfort is not his priority. Do you realize that this whole thing with the church merger and us getting a building and being a part of this whole process, do you realize that it has zero to do with my comfort or yours? Do you understand that? This is not about us having a home and having our own chairs and having our own place in the comfort. I hope that we all work as hard or harder after than we do even now. I know for a fact that Roger will continue to get here at 6 o'clock or 5:30, whenever he does. He'll have nothing to do, but he'll probably walk around and figure out something to do. But not only Roger, but all of us. And I think about Mark chapter 10, verse 34 from the Message. It says, don't think that I have come to make your life cozy. I love Peterson's interpretation of that passage. I've not come to make your life cozy. And I don't know if you in your life need something to push you outside of your comfort. I don't know that. At times I wonder, when is he going to stop pushing me outside of my comfort? But every time he does, there's a challenge and there's something that comes out of it that could never have happened otherwise. Because the guy that drove up I-17 to Pine the first week of October was a different man that came down from Pine on I-17 at the end of the week. Completely two different guys. Turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 1, would you please? 2 Corinthians chapter 1. And I want you to see this passage. I think we have it. Yeah. 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 3 through 7. If you don't have it, it's right behind you. 2 Corinthians chapter 1, 3 through 7. Listen to this. Blessed be the God the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies. Get this. The God of all comfort. Oh, all right. I like it. A God of extra pillows. A God of ice cold AC in my car. A God of a hot cup of coffee in my sheepy blanket every morning. Chapter 1, verse 4, it kind of changes here, and it says, who comforts us in our affliction. Remember the old Saturday Night Spirit? Wah, wah. It's like Debbie Downer just says, what? So that we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction, with comfort with those we ourselves have been comforted by God. For as we share abundantly in Christ's suffering, more, so through Christ we share abundantly to comfort too. If we are afflicted, it is for your comfort and salvation. And if we are comforted, it is for your comfort, which you experience when you patiently endure the same sufferings that we suffer. Our hope for you is unshaken, for we know that as you share in our sufferings, you also share in our comfort. The Bible actually talks a lot about comfort. In your affliction. When my relationship with Jesus does not bring comfort in the time of affliction, one of two things is wrong. He's not a man of his word, or I'm coming to him with unrealistic and unbiblical expectations. And meanwhile, Jesus, not sweet baby Jesus in the manger, but as an adult says, I don't come to give you a comfy life. I come to comfort you in affliction. I don't know what's going on in your life. None of my business. But I will tell you this. That when God has you in a place where He is your only hope, the questions that you start asking are completely different than the questions you've been asking. And when I start asking questions that Jesus is the answer, He starts saying, now we can work with this. Mind you, there are times in your life where God will give you things of comfort. Some of you may remember a time where you're driving a junker and God provided a car. Not only was it a car, but it had something crazy that you push a button and the windows go down. Like, that's a new thing? Are you kidding me? This is awesome. And He may provide those. But His goal in our lives is not to give us comfort. The adult Jesus says, I'm going to give you comfort in your affliction. The second, I'm running out of time. We won't get through them all here. But number two, His hope for us is to prefer Him over everything, even our family. And you're like, what? He said what? Mark 10:34, out of the Message says, don't think I've come to make life cozy. I've come to make a sharp knife cut between son and father, daughter and mother, bride and mother-in-law. That one's not so hard. Cut through the cozy domestic arrangements and free for you guys. Well-meaning family members can be your worst enemy. If you prefer father or mother over me, you don't deserve me. If you prefer son or daughter over me, you don't deserve me. What is He saying? What is this all about? Turn your back on your family? It's not what He's saying. He's saying, in my life, He is asking us, in this text, it is clear that He's saying, I want you to put me above anything and everything. And I want you to filter my relationship of love through me. Because our relationship is not built upon things I'm supposed to do or not do, but it's based on pure love. And He's saying, I beg you, if you filter your relationships with your kids and your parents and your neighbors and the people you work for, those who hate you and love you, those who are either, they're like meh with you, whoever it is, if you filter those relationships through the one where I love you more than you can ever imagine. I promise you, I will bring love and fulfillment and satisfaction to your life in ways that you cannot even fathom. So his hope is, put me there first. Luke 9 says, and he said to all, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up the cross daily. Daily. Number 3, he asks to be given God status, but he never demands it. John 10 says, we are not stoning you for any good work. And they replied, but for blasphemy, because a mere man cannot claim to be God. Do you know why Jesus eventually died on a cross and hung? I'll tell you exactly why. Read the scriptures. If you don't believe me, come back to me. One reason. He claimed to be God. And I've had people patronize me and say, oh, I believe Jesus was a good man. Maybe a prophet. But I don't believe he was God. I said, then he's a lunatic. Because he claimed to be God. When I was in high school, I went to a pretty big church in Northern Ohio. And big youth group. And great. It was before mega churches, and so this was the place that everyone kind of went to, and then all the other churches hated us. It was great. And so I was in this youth group, and it was a great youth group, and it was a great group. And one Sunday, this friend of mine, I forget his name now, not that it matters, he came to church, Sunday school that morning, and he came, and I think it was Easter, and he declared himself as Jesus. Not Jesus, Jesus. Like, Son of God Jesus. And he walked in and we were all like, oh, it's not very funny, but whatever. Well, he really did. For the next 2 weeks, they sent him to a special hospital in our county. And after we realized he was serious, we realized he's in danger, and maybe others. I don't think that our response as teenagers would have been much different than this in the scriptures with the real Jesus, the real Son of God. And when he says, my Father and I are one, I am positive there were religious leaders that went, that's pretty bold. It was bold. And it was true. For years, people have taken note of the great Bono. I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a few years ago, and they did a YouTube Bono exhibit. It was 3D, and he was singing, and you wear these 3D glasses, and it was like his hand came, and it was awesome. I'd go again tomorrow if had opportunity. And as the lead singer of U2, and particularly in the 80s and after, not so much maybe now, but his word was pretty valuable, and people heard him. And people suspected that there was some kind of religious motive or background behind some of his lyrics. If you listen carefully, you can hear an undertone of faith, biblical faith in Jesus. And it caught the attention of people, not just the Rolling Stone magazine, but others. And recent reports have indicated that Bono is actually a believer. And he talked about Jesus in a recent interview, and he said this: when people say good teacher, prophet, really nice guy, this is not how Jesus thought of himself. So you're left with a challenge that, which is, either Jesus was who he said he was, or a complete and utter nutcase. And then he said, I believe Jesus was and is the Son of God. Bono is not our Bible. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not quoting Bono because he knows all things true. He and the Edge are great, and I love them, and I love their music, and I've seen them live twice. I'd go back tomorrow. It's awesome. What I'm saying is, every once in a while, you see a celebrity like him who can stand up and say, he claimed to be God for a reason, and that's my God. And it's the first step to a relationship of love, of placing yourself at his feet in his mercy and say, my life is your life, my problems are your problems. Just because of time, I'll just do this fourth one. It says, I would say this, the first will be last, and the last will be first. And it comes from Mark chapter 20. And if you know your Bible at all, it's a theme to the New Testament. It says, it shall not be so among you, but whoever would be great among you, you must be a servant. And whoever would be first among you must be your slave, even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. You see, in his currency, everything is upside down. Everything's backwards. Everything. What you and I see as the top is his bottom, and everything that you see at the bottom should be at the top. And everything is backwards. And when Jesus, as the adult, not the baby Jesus, the benign one, the helpless one in the manger, but the one today, he says this, if you want to be first, you've got to be last. End of the line. And that applies in your home. It applies in your workplace. It applies at church. It applies wherever you are, whatever social groups you're a part of. And if you try to push yourself to the top, he says, I have another plan. I'm in a place in my life where I can't afford for a minute to put myself above anybody. I don't think you have time either, no matter your age. And when Jesus confronts me with that, and he says, those are going to be exalted, they will be humbled. Those that are going to be strong, they're really weak. Those that want to be receivers, you've got to be a giver. If you want to live, you're going to die. And when he says those things to me, and when he says those things to you, he means them. This isn't poetry. It's not Shakespeare. And these communion elements that we'll pass out in a moment represent the most significant, the most life-changing event that ever took place. You see, the wafer represents a man who lived a perfect life and hung on a cross for sin he didn't commit. The juice represents the blood that was shed for you. And so when he says, I'm going to humble myself to the cross, it's now our job to exalt him forever. And when he appeared to be weak, instead it took all the strength in the world to do what he did. And when he chose to die, he chose to give you life.